Hi, it's Sachibuchi, and this is the brand new Arturia KeyStep 37. Arturia's KeyStep has become something like the industry standard MIDI controller. It's portable, rugged, simple to use, and it has some great standalone features like the Arpeggiator or the sequencer. But naturally, ever since its introduction, users have been asking for more. For those that want more sequencer tracks, more outputs, and full-sized keys, Arturia have recently released the much larger KeyStep Pro. But many users have just been asking for some minor improvements and usability upgrades, and this is where the KeyStep 37 steps on the map. At a glance, it has more keys, a light guide, 4 rotary encoders, an LCD display, a proper USB jack, an extended chord mode, and an on-off switch. In this review, I'll walk you through all the new features and compare the new KeyStep 37 with the classic model. Before we dive in, a disclaimer: my friends over at Arturia have sent me the KeyStep 37 so I can make this video for you. I do not receive any payment by them. They do not see this video before I upload it, and as always, when I accept the product to review, there are no strings attached. Everything I say is my own opinion. Let's go. The KeyStep 37 has the same sturdy build quality as its smaller sibling, with a metal base plate, rubber feet, and upper plastic housing. It's slightly longer than the regular KeyStep due to the additional keys. Apart from that, it's similar sized. The slim-sized, velocity-sensitive keys with aftertouch are similar to those on the smaller model. It just has 5 more, so it now covers 3 full octaves from C to C. As far as small-sized keys go, these are among the best you can get in that price range, and they are very popular with players. A new feature is the light guide. These little RGB LEDs on top of the keys give you various information about the sequencer, arpeggiator, chords, and scales with different colors. KeyStep 37 has the familiar touch strips for modulation and pitch, has 2 octave up and down buttons, and a hold button. The 4 rotary knobs not only control the new chord mode, but can also send MIDI CC data to external hardware software. They are organized in 4 banks, so you can assign them to up to 16 parameters. You could, for example, control 16 parameters of one software synth, or you could assign the 4 banks to the key parameters of 4 different hardware synths in a live situation. The knobs are not touch sensitive, they are not endless encoders, they're just simple old school rotary knobs, and they feel sturdy and reliable. Another new feature is the LCD screen that shows the tempo and some additional information in chord mode, a very useful and much desired upgrade. As far as connectivity goes, KeyStep 37 is similar to the smaller version. There are full-sized MIDI in and MIDI output ports to connect it to external hardware or use it as a USB MIDI interface with a computer. There are 3 CV outputs to control modular or semi-modular synthesizers. And via USB, you can connect it to a computer, tablet, or smartphone. It worked flawlessly on my iPhone with this Lightning to USB adapter. I'll put a link in the description, although I had to power the KeyStep 37 with an external DC adapter, which is expected. I was also able to connect it to an iPad Pro with this connector. I'll put another link in the description. And it even ran without external power. The iPad Pro was strong enough to power KeyStep 37 on its own. Arturia include a dongle with KeyStep 37 that allows you to power it with a second USB connection. And Arturia have fulfilled another long-time user request by adding a on-off switch, and it's a proper one too. There are also sync in and sync out jacks available to connect KeyStep 37 to Korg Volcas or certain pre-MIDI vintage gear. There's a sustain pedal jack and a Kensington lock port. The clock options are still selected with the little dip switches on the back, and not my favorite solution, but it works well. Now let's take a look at the inner qualities of KeyStep 37, and I think the biggest upgrade that differs this from the classic KeyStep is the newly extended Chord Mode. With the 4 rotary encoders, you can select the type of chord, the note range, velocity modulation, and the new strum mode. Available chord types include triad, 7th, 9th, and 11th, both in minor and major, as well as octave, 5th, sustained, and customizable user chords. With notes, you can select the number of notes between 1 and 16. If you raise velocity to notes modulation above 0, the velocity will increasingly modulate the number of notes that are played, so the harder you hit the key, the more notes will be played. Strum enables you to stroke chords as if you were playing a stringed instrument like a guitar. You can set the strumming speed freely or sync it to the clock tempo in divisions. Strum is also useful to mimic polyphony with monophonic instruments, especially when combined with some reverb and delay. Holding Shift gives us access to the secondary keyboard functions, and thanks to the 5 additional keys, Scale has now its own dedicated controls. We can select between chromatic, major, minor, blues, and a customizable user scale. When holding both Shift and one of the scale function keys, you can select the root note with the lower octave of the keyboard. When scale mode is set to anything other than chromatic, it will redirect any wrong note you hit to match the selected scale. What the scale feature still does not do is redirect all notes of a scale to the white keys. When I set the scale to E minor, for example, both E and F trigger E. It also does not illuminate the notes of a scale with the light guide, so depending on the scale and root note, I will still have to memorize some black keys. This kind of defeats the purpose, at least for me, because if I was able to memorize all the keys in a scale, I probably wouldn't need a scale mode in the first place. It's still a great feature for those of us who are less experienced players and do not have a music theory background, but still want to improvise and play along with something and stay in tune. But I would like to see this being updated in the future to make it even more useful. KeyStep 37 has the same arpeggiator as the smaller model, nothing new here, but I still want to give you a quick overview. There are 8 types of arpeggio. The rate can either be tapped in or set with the dedicated knob and is displayed on the new LCD screen. Gate and swing can be set with the secondary key commands. You can simply transpose the arpeggio by pressing any key. And the range of the arpeggio is set with Shift plus the octave buttons. Something that has not changed, at least yet, is that if you combine the chord feature with the arpeggiator, it still just plays the whole chord instead of resolving it into an actual arpeggio. That's something I would wish to see changed in a future update. KeyStep 37 also has the same polyphonic standalone sequencer as the smaller model. You can create up to 8 sequences with 64 steps each and up to 8 notes per step. You can program a sequence step by step with rest, ties, and legatos, or overdub it in real time. You can play along with the sequence or transpose it, and you can set the swing. So here's the conclusion. I will start with the things I do not like so much about KeyStep 37. I wish the scale node would automatically reroute all notes in a scale to the white keys, or alternatively, the active notes would at least be indicated by the light guide. I also think the way Chord Mode interacts with the arpeggiator could be improved by actually resolving chords into arpeggios instead of just playing them in full. A possible downside for some users might be the slightly larger size and increase in weight. It's not an issue for me, I like the form factor. I also miss a USB-C port or alternatively an included adapter. And finally, a critique that does not only apply to this but to many controllers out there. For some core functions, you need two hands. For example, it's impossible to switch the root note of a scale without using both hands and 3 fingers. That's not only problematic for those of us with one hand, it can also be an obstacle in live situations where you might want to change a scale or a root note with one hand while playing a different instrument with the other. It's probably not a big issue for most users, but for some, it might be. Now let's talk about the things I like. The KeyStep 37 retains all the advantages that made the classic KeyStep a studio staple. It's super well built, it's compact enough for desk use, it's sturdy enough to take it on the road, it has great standalone features unheard of in its price class, and it has some of the best small-sized keys on the market. Arturia have closely listened to users and added some of the most requested upgrades, like an on-off switch, an LCD panel, a rotary encoders, a proper USB jack, and a full 3-octave keyboard. And on top of that, they added the new Chord Mode, which I enjoyed a lot. So if I was in the market for a new compact MIDI controller keyboard and I had to choose between the classic KeyStep and the newer KeyStep 37, I would go with the newer version. At launch, it will cost roughly 60 to 70 bucks more than the classic version, but the included improvements and upgrades tick so many of my boxes that the additional charge would definitely be worth it for me. That rounds up my review of the KeyStep 37. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you have any questions or feedback, leave a comment. And if you want to see more videos about music, tech, and creativity, make sure to subscribe to the channel before you leave. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.